Hi, everyone. I hope you've had a wonderful week and a fantastic Friday. Weirdly enough, it feels like I haven't been here in a while, even though it was just last Friday. I think, Jeb, I was so used to Brad being out of town or at conferences, and I was getting to do live weather impact. Yeah, so much. But we're back, and we are thankfully talking about really mostly positive forecast heading into the weekend because we have one dry day, a little bit of rain, which we desperately need. And of course, it's that time of the year where it is perfect time to get outside. And with that being said, the number one thing that if you are going to do any kind of fall activities this weekend, if you can, go to the mountains, try to see some of those colored leaves. I mean, it's fantastic. It's perfect. I really don't know how much more to say it. The fall leaves just get you in a fall spirit. And right now we're about 5,500 feet and above. We're starting to see color that is now past the peak, but places like Sugar Mountain, Howard's Knob, Ginger Cake, all the way really down to Banner Elk, they're smack dab in their peak right now. Blowing Rock, Banner Elk, you're in high color, which means your peak is the next week, week and a half. And then boom, down toward Jefferson Valley Cruces, so about 2,500 to 3,500 feet, are probably going to see their peak within the next few weeks. I myself, not to be selfish, I'm really excited about this because in typical TV person fashion, we don't oftentimes work weekends, don't really get the week, Saturdays and Sundays off. So Wednesday and Thursday of this week, Jeb, I'm going to Blowing Rock to see some leaves. So I'm really excited about that. I'll let you guys know how it is. I'll bring lots of pictures to Live Weather Impact next Friday, if I remember. I'm actually really bad at picture taking since I try to be in the moment, since I'm on my phone way too much in normal day-to-day life when I'm like at an event, and then I end up, not having any fall pictures or, any pictures at my best friend's wedding. Yeah, they're in my mind. But then it's like, you go to an event like my friend's wedding, and I'm like, why did I not take any pictures? Different story for a different day. Again, current leaf color is great up in the mountains, here locally in Ashwaubenon, Avery County, but also all across western North Carolina. So think any place that was impacted by Helene. If you have an opportunity to get out over the next few weeks and support that local tourism, please do so. Beautiful shot here from Beach Mountain, Buckeye Lake. I mean, look at the fall colors. I feel like Brad used this picture a lot this week, and I certainly will too because it's one of the best that we have. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. And speaking of the mountains, Banner Elk this weekend. Woolly Worm Festival is back. If you missed the Weather IQ that Becca Birdsall did earlier this week on the woolly worm and kind of the history, you should definitely go to our YouTube page and check it out. I think that you guys did also show it on Live Weather Impact, so if you were here earlier this week, you probably did see it. If you are heading to Banner Elk this weekend, cooler again Saturday morning. Saturday morning will actually probably feel similar to what we felt this morning, since here in Charlotte tonight we're in the 50s, they're in the 40s, 70s in the afternoon. A little bit of rain returning for really most of our area on Sunday. I did lower the rain chances for the mountains because I think although they are higher than us locally, I don't think they're going to be widespread, which is what some of our model data was showing earlier. So if you have the WCNC Charlotte mobile app and you saw a 100% chance of rain, just know that I have lowered that because I certainly do not agree with 100% chance of rain. The reason why we've been so dry, of course, is high pressure overhead, but yesterday it was right over us, so we were getting that north to northeasterly flow. Now it's shifting a little bit further south and southeast, which if you look at the high, I'm going to draw on here if we can get it to work. Sometimes these things are a little finicky. But because of the position, there we go, of the high, we're now getting more of a southwesterly flow, which means that the moisture, the warmer air is coming in from the south and southwest. So think places like the Gulf. Depending on the position of the high, sometimes this is the blowtorch in the southeast that we hear oftentimes during the summer when we get those really, really hot days. So again, position of the highs and lows and the cold fronts and where the air is coming from oftentimes determines what the air mass is bringing us. So of course, earlier this week it was cooler and drier. Now it's a little bit more humid, and again, temperatures won't be quite as cool this weekend. Futurecast showing a very, very clear conditions on Saturday. Again, I'm not worried about any rain for the majority of the area. Sunday morning looks pretty good for any of those early church plans, but by 11 o'clock, 12, I think we could start to see some areas of rain in the mountains, and then closer to 2 and 3 for the metro. Now, cautiously optimistic, right, about this rainfall potential. I know we've talked a lot about the drought the past few days. Very different Sundays with both a chance for rain, and hopefully I do a good job of explaining this. Last Sunday, the nor'easter was just off the coast, so we saw hours and hours of light rain before it actually reached the ground, again because of that dry air near the ground. This weekend is going to be different. It's an approaching cold front, so the rain is not going to be as widespread, but at times it could be heavier. Now, does that mean that we'll see better chances for light to moderate rain? Not necessarily, but I do think we have a better chance that it will reach the ground, but a lesser chance that everyone will see it. Hopefully that made sense to everybody. There's 3 o'clock. 6 o'clock, we'll see a few more downpours, and then by about 8 and 9, it's pretty much out of here. And then like clockwork, like it has been the past few weeks, months, we're dry again into early next week. I'm very optimistic, but cautiously optimistic that we will have measurable rainfall. Right now in Charlotte, looking at about 1/10 of an inch. Could get lucky closer to the foothills with around 1/4, and then the mountains would probably be at the best chance because of closer proximity to the front before it does start to weaken. We still need a lot of rain. We've only gotten about 31 inches of rain so far this year. I know that seems like a lot, but our average is between 43 and 45 inches. So up to right now, we're about 5 inches below normal. I will remind folks that it's not as much about the yearly rainfall, but when we had it. So the last time we really saw significant rainfall was in August. And so it's the long proximity since we've seen it that really, really does start to matter. Locally again tonight, we'll see very, very comfortable conditions overall. 50s for lows, 40s in the mountains. We're about 5 to 7 degrees warmer than where we were this morning. So again, it's still chilly, just not quite as chilly. Temperatures tomorrow afternoon, reaching the 80s. It is going to be a fantastic weekend for any outdoor activities that you have, but this is the first home series of the season for the Charlotte Checkers. So forecast check-in, see what I did there? Will be very, very comfortable, clear skies. Heading to the game, going home from the game, no weather-related issues expected at all. Quick update here on the tropics. We have 2 areas of interest to watch. The one at the top is a non-issue. Second one is certainly something we're watching because of its proximity to the Caribbean. That is still an area that we do watch this time of year if you look at our tropical climatology. But I will remind folks that we are inching closer and closer to the end of hurricane season, which means 1, don't let your guard down. But 2, thankfully, we're getting closer to the end. So there's October's typical paths, and you can see November's are very close to places like Hispaniola and near, just south and near of the Bahamas. And typically those do go out to sea. But I mean, just last week, the week before, we had Hazel's anniversary, 1954. And then, of course, Hurricane Michael, which was October 10th. So just about a week ago. Here's our 7-day forecast locally from Jerry Hunt Supercenter. Again, lots of things happening this weekend. Checkers, you can see Charlotte 49ers, App State both have homecoming on Saturday. Charlotte FC, I'll be at OMB in Ballantyne Saturday morning to MC the Charlotte Vision Walk. So if you're interested in trying to fight blindness, please come out and support. Lots of sunshine again the majority of the day Saturday. Drier Sunday morning before we see that small chance of rain. And then perfect weather for the rest of the week. Another home series for the Checkers next weekend. We're going to go to a quick 2-minute break, and we'll be right back with Chief Meteorologist Tim Buckley and a fun guest. We'll be right back.
Welcome back on Live Weather Impact. Chief Meteorologist Tim Buckley here from WFMY in Greensboro, joined by Brittany Van Voorhees at WCNC in Charlotte. And today we have a special guest. Peter Forrester is joining us. Peter is a storm chaser, a weather enthusiast, a fall color enthusiast, and a photographer extraordinaire. Peter, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
So we have a couple things we want to talk to you about today, Peter. I know we'll get to fall color at some point along the line. I know you work a lot with the guys over at Explore Fall, which is a great resource for folks to kind of see where the fall colors are happening and where they might want to go check everything out. But you've been working on a kind of an interesting project that we noticed on your social media pages, which is asking folks around the Southeast, what's the worst hurricane that you remember? Can you tell us a little bit about this project?
Yeah, this was a fun project that I initially started from seeing a map that was along the same lines from a graphic artist. And it was based off of purely meteorological data. And it was, I want to say, made in 2010. So it missed, the last decade and a half of really big storms that have come through the eastern U.S. And so I just put out a call for help on X, on my X account, and just started logging the counties where people said that, hey, this storm in my county in this year was the worst one that I remember, or the worst one that my parents remember. The idea was to do within about a generation. And so from these reports collected from social media, I started filling out this map of just individual counties across the United States and was able to fill in these swaths of what people remember as the worst storm in their own region. It's really interesting to see patterns in South and North Carolina stand out. Obviously, Helene, which is that orange color on the far left, made a big impact last year. And a lot of people are saying that's the worst, understandably so. But also Hugo from many years ago, stands out a lot to a lot of people. Fran, Floyd, Florence, a lot of F storms. And so this is not a data map in that it's accurate scientific data. It's more of just a social experiment and a subjective map to see what people remember.
Yeah, Peter, this is really cool. Social science is always very near and dear to my heart. I actually did my master's research on why people do and don't evacuate for hurricanes, so this is really interesting. I love also seeing all the different storm names because we know H's, like you mentioned, and F's are really, really big here. Have you been surprised by any of the responses that you received? Because there is one name, and I'll wait till after you answer, but that does pop off on this list that does surprise me a little bit.
There were individual counties that surprised me, I think, and a few in the far northeast, which aren't on that graphic. But really, the Carolinas, I think it made a lot of sense to me. There's a more zoomed out view, but yeah, just a large combination of storms. There's Hurricane Angie's, which is a little bit further north. A lot of people remember that in New England and Northern Virginia. And then in the south, basically south of the North Carolina border, it becomes a jumbled mess of all these different storms going into Florida, going into the coastlines, et cetera. I would say maybe Opal, which I don't think had many direct North Carolina impacts, but that went on a swath up from Florida into the Atlanta metro. And that was actually pretty surprising to me because in my own consciousness, I don't remember too much conversation about that storm.
Yeah, the only one that surprised me, I was going to say, was Dorian, just because the storm stayed offshore and it was so annoying because it was offshore for so long. But I would think those areas in North Carolina on the eastern side would have had another storm that they would have thought was more intense. But I guess you can't argue with what people remember.
Yeah, I had a couple people from Dare County, which is Hatteras, south side of the Outer Banks, say that it was Dorian. I guess because of the surge impacts, because it was such a powerful Category 5 storm, it brought a lot of surge with it, even though it was mostly offshore, and that wind field really smoked Hatteras. So I expect that's why it stands out. Also, another one, Irene, just north of there in the Outer Banks. I always thought of Irene as this big New England storm that had catastrophic flooding in Vermont. But a lot of people said that because of the inland flooding on the inland side of the Sound from Irene, that actually stood out more to locals as opposed to something like Isabel, which would have impacted the more touristy side of the Outer Banks.
Yeah, that makes sense. And
Yeah,
also
the
when you have
Outer
so
Banks
many
are so
storms,
interesting. Yeah, like you were saying, Brittany, they have so many storms out there. They're so vulnerable to both ocean flooding and sound side flooding that there can be so many impacts. But I think for most of our viewers watching maybe in the Charlotte area or the Triad area around here, I think this map makes a lot of sense. Hugo, Helene, Fran. There are a couple counties that I found interesting, though, that actually picked out Michael, which Hurricane Michael is the Cat 5 that went into the Florida Panhandle. But Michael had a really interesting history around here in 2018 when it ran right up. It was in October, by the way. It produced what we also call a sting jet, which is just kind of a localized area of 70 to 80 mile per hour gusts that knocked out in our region up here about 200,000 to 300,000 folks without power. So it was a different kind of a storm. It wasn't even purely tropical at that point. But it's interesting. I think it's nice that you have this social aspect now. And you would probably say this is a living map. So it would be good if maybe we could help you kind of get this out to more folks and you can get more responses to kind of crowdsource it. Because some of the blank counties could be filled in.
Absolutely. And I've changed a couple of these counties back and forth, especially on the fringes of the major storms. It's a subjective map. This isn't like some law that we're laying down. But yeah, the more feedback we can get, the better. And it's a super fun project.
Well, obviously on top of hurricanes, you also love fall. Fall color photography, explore fall, working with them. You're a fall weather fanatic. Tell us a little bit more about your work there and how you got into that.
So, that's a lot of questions.
Take your time.
I would say that my love of fall definitely started with just the photography side of things. I actually picked up photography because of the meteorology. I fell in love with storms and lightning and blizzards and that kind of thing. But then that grew into this love of everything natural, everything outdoors, and wanting to capture that. And so for several years, I had actually been talking with Evan Fisher about this idea of this project that will bring together both meteorology and forecasting the fall and what that looks like. And it was a big question mark. But Evan Fisher was the brains behind the code and the model and a lot of the website stuff and putting all that together. But it's been really fun to work alongside him and develop Explore Fall, which is our website that tracks the progression of fall colors across the country, and also bringing in the social side of things. I've been able to put together a system that brings in reports from all over the country and the places where the fall colors are changing and how quickly they're changing, what the quality of those colors are, and bring them into this map, this product that we can share with people like TV stations or just someone who's looking for a guide of what their house is going to be like in October. And so because of the meteorology, the model, all the hard work we put into that, but also the flexibility to be able to pull in those social reports, we think that this is a really unique product in terms of the tourism market and helping people in the fall. And so it's been a ton of fun to work on. This year for Explore Fall has just been so much fun to interact with all the people and watch the fall colors change. I will say that it's been a tough year for most of the East Coast. Most places east of the Mississippi River have been in pretty severe drought. And North Carolina is a haven. Actually, the quality of the colors in North Carolina have been really great over the past couple of weeks. So actually, your neck of the woods is where to be this year in a lot of ways.
Yeah, we had a professor from App State last week that I spoke to. His name is Dr. Howard Neufeld, and I know you guys had him on WCNC Plus and WFMY Plus. But yeah, he said the drought conditions were impacting a little bit. Like you could tell maybe some leaves were falling off, but there were so many great colors around that you almost didn't notice because it wasn't like a significant drop. So he said you might see some leaves on the ground, but other than that, the drought hasn't impacted too much, which was great to hear because I'm going leaf peeping this week. So. And I'm really excited.
Now's the time to do it. Peter, you're based up in Virginia, right? How are things looking up there this year for fall? And if people are going out, just amateur photographers like myself, do you have any tips for taking the best fall pictures?
Sure. So I'm currently based in Charlottesville, Virginia, which is right on the edge of the Blue Ridge Mountains here. So it's actually looking to be a pretty good year in the Blue Ridge, which is awesome, all the way up and down from Georgia into North Carolina, Tennessee, and then into Virginia. The Blue Ridge is where to be for the fall colors this year. I will say that further west and north of where I am, it's been a very bad year. West Virginia especially usually has vibrant, bright red maples and this wonderful hardwood forest. And unfortunately, it got put into severe or extreme drought in the last month or so. And so basically the leaves just turned brown and fell off. So fortunately, the Blue Ridge has better luck this year. And so going out to take fall photos, I would say that actually the bad forecast days, the days that are going to be a little bit rainy and a little bit cloudy, those are actually the days that you want to be out taking photos. I know that it's super nice to be out hiking out in the mountains when it's a blue sky and a crisp breeze, but actually that makes it much harder for photography. And so if you can get that nice overcast with a little bit of moisture on the leaves to make the colors pop, soft light so it won't be super harsh in the camera, that's actually how you're going to get the best fall photos. So watch the forecast and be okay with going on the days that it's going to be a little bit rainy, and you'll be in awesome shape, especially in North Carolina this year.
Cough, cough, Sunday. Cough, cough,
Exactly.
Sunday.
Of course, you might be blowing off the mountain this Sunday when we have that cold front swinging by with 50-mile-per-hour gusts up that way. But if you
At least your pictures will be good.
Get a good picture. Peter, we really appreciate your time sharing everything you had about the hurricane map and also the fall colors. And we hope the colors turn a little bit better up your way in Charlottesville for this season.
Appreciate y'all having me on. It's great. And good luck with your trips this upcoming weekend.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
Wait, so Tim, on the subject of fall colors, you were able to go, what was it? Was it this? No, not this past weekend. I feel like I saw you were in the mountains again recently to try to see some colors.
Yes.
But the days just run together.
I went on Monday. Yeah, I went on Monday. It was really good.
Why would you do this?
Seen if you wanted to go.
Yeah, you didn't even check with me. Mondays are my day off.
No, I know. Well, I think the colors are still going to be pretty good for a while, don't you? I'm worried a little bit about how much the wind might blow off on Sunday into Monday.
You know, I'm just going to be cautiously optimistic. Try not to think about it too much. Like we tell the viewers, you can't change the forecast. You can only know what the forecast is. Well, one good thing, at least for where I'm going to a friend's house in Blowing Rock. And so I think that was an interesting thing that
Nice.
I was looking at yesterday with Brad updating some of our graphics. Was it looks like Blowing Rock, Boone, like down sort of some of those lower elevations are still not at their peak. It's like more the Grandfather Mountains, Beach and Sugar that are at peak, if not past peak. So I might do what some of the people who listen to the forecast do and just close my ears and pretend like it's not happening with the winds on Sunday and hope for the best.
Anytime you can get up there this time of year, it really is pretty magical. Jeb, I have a picture on my graphics here if you want to pop it up. This was, it's old now, so this is back on Monday, but that's the viaduct bridge that everybody knows. And, at that point in time, kind of the cool thing about our area is, when you get up there, you can see all the differences just based on the elevation. So like these trees right up here, you were kind of seeing the peak color, but in the distance it was still green, because that's where it was a little bit lower in elevation. So don't stress too badly, oh, you can't get up there this weekend. If you get up there middle of next week, just drive until you see the good color and then stop around and take some pictures. You really can't go too wrong with our state because we have such a variety in elevation. But the tip that Peter gave us is a good one. If you have cloudy days, that kind of gives you Mother Nature's filter. It's kind of like a little Instagram filter almost. The problem is I don't see much cloud cover next week at all, Brittany.
Yeah, I'm going Wednesday, Thursday. Tim, you work in TV. That's kind of our version of weekends. But no cloud cover. However, Howie told me when I talked to him last week that as long as I go early in the morning, not only will I beat the crowds, although I'm not worried about crowds on a Wednesday and a Thursday, but also that 6:30 to 10:30 time frame is also the best for the colors, because when the sun's at its highest angle, it can kind of dull it because it's just beating down on the leaves.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm gonna, flip the night side sleeping in to try to get up early and get some color, maybe around 7 a.m. So I might be blowing you up for some color picture tips since that beautiful shot that you took there, because I know that doesn't say Grandfather Mountain or Leslie, that says Tim Buckley.
Well, I tell you, I brought my big fancy camera, which I have and I use only a couple times a year. This is the iPhone. So the iPhone is doing as good a job, if not better, in my opinion, than some of the fancy stuff nowadays. So anyone can take a good fall photo. But seriously, if you aren't